To call today's meeting of the Economic Development Committee to order. Please have roll call, please, Amy.
Sure. Chair LaPlante.
Here.
Vice Chair Galassi.
Here.
Member Rutledge.
Here.
Member Covert. Member Childress.
Here.
And Member Yu.
Okay, we still have another committee that's going on, so they will join us later. I move to approve the minutes from our last Economic Development Committee meeting that was held on Tuesday, March 21st, 2023.
Second.
Wonderful, thank you. Can you please call the roll? Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you so much. For my chairwoman remarks, I would like to shine a light and highlight the wonderful work that's happening at WorkNet DuPage. April is nationally recognized as Second Chance Month, which means it brings attention to the importance of helping the formerly incarcerated re-enter society. Steady employment and a quality job is widely considered to be a key driver of reducing recidivism, and WorkNet DuPage has made this a strategic priority the past several years. I love that so much. But we'll have to talk about Dave's Killer Bread later.
Okay.
Have you heard of that?
I have.
It's wonderful. And that's exactly what that company does.
I did not realize
Yeah,
that.
it's all hiring people with felony records.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, wonderful. From our last full year of performance data, we saw people with a felony conviction who completed our services average $28.43 an hour in their employment at case closure, and those with a misdemeanor conviction averaged $30.75 an hour at case closure. As always, the stories of our clients paint the picture better than any of those numbers can. Here's an example. A was 26 years old when he received a 15-year sentence for possession with intent to distribute. After serving 9.5 years of that sentence, he was released from prison in late 2021 and connected with WorkNet shortly thereafter. He received a training voucher to attend a truck driving program, attended the program for 3 months, and obtained his license. He quickly landed a job at the construction company in April 2022, making $46 an hour. In a recent follow-up contact about a year after case closure, A stated that he's doing great. He sees even more opportunities for himself and knows that with patience, they will come. He stated that the owners of the company love him because they know they can always count on him. He's grateful for the assistance from WorkNet in getting his CDL and opening doorways for him. So this is truly groundbreaking and life-changing work that you're doing. Thank you so much. Now let's move on to public comment. Do we have any public comments?
We do not.
Okay, wonderful. Under procurement requisitions, I move to place on file, no, excuse me, I move to approve EDP 0001-23, awarding resolution issued to Central States SER to provide youth training services for the period of June 1st, 23 through May 31st, 24 for workforce development for a contract total amount not to exceed $310,000 and $434,000 per RFP 23-10-WIOA.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. I move to place on file EDP 0002-23, awarding resolution issued to Turning Point Autism Foundation to provide youth training services for the period of June 1st, 23 through May 31st, 24 for workforce development, a contract total amount not to exceed $89,141 per RFP 23-10-WIOA.
Second.
Thank you. You guys need to work on your timing.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. We have a change order. I move to approve ED-CO-0001-23. Amendment to County Contract 5234-0001 serve issued to Carroll Stream Chamber of Commerce for one-stop operator services for the Workforce Development Division to increase the contract by $41,254 and extend the contract through June 30th, 2025. Michael in with the sneaky and fast second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Now we move on to the presentation part of our committee meeting. First up, we have Greg Bedeloff and Choose DuPage. He's going to give us the 2022 year in review. In the interest of time, I've asked him to cut his musical number. Greg?
Thank you. Thank you for asking me to come.
Thank you for that. For all of us.
I am going to do some Shakespeare later, so I'll enjoy that. Next slide, please. So I wanted to pleased to give you our 2022 update. My apologies for the length of the presentation. I'll try to go quickly, but there's some really good stuff in here. So next slide. As you know, we are the voice of the county's business community, and together we work to support and promote the DuPage difference, which is the high quality of life, business-friendly environment, location, and everything that the business community likes about DuPage County. Next slide, please. Our goals are simple. We endeavor every day to grow, retain, and attract businesses to DuPage County, support the countywide economic development initiatives that oftentimes are born from this committee and then go through the county board, and then address policy issues critical to the needs of the regional economy. Next slide, please. We are a public-private partnership, and it is important to note that more than half of our revenue comes from private sector contributions. And as that pie chart indicates, it's pretty much a 50-50 split. In some years, that's 55 private sector. Some years it's 48 private sector, but it's typically a 50-50 split between our revenue source. Last year, the county allocated $425,000 to Choose DuPage, and our private sector contributions total just slightly higher than that. Next slide, please. So from a business attraction and retention perspective, because that's what matters in my opinion at the end of the day, we keep a scorecard on how we're doing. Next slide, please. And here is our 2022 project scorecard. For projects that we measure, they must meet one of the following 5 criteria: either $1 million of private sector investment, a net gain of 20,000 square feet of space or more, a net gain of 20 full-time jobs or more. They have to be a headquarters facility, or significant Choose DuPage involvement in bringing the deal across the finish line. Next slide, please. So in 2022, we saw 197 projects in DuPage County that met that criteria. That created 2,300 jobs were created or retained as a result of those projects. 16 million square feet of office space was either developed or redeveloped in conjunction with those projects. And the total investment is a number that we're still working on. As you can imagine, when you have that many projects, it's hard to identify an exact number. It is safe to say that it is north of $10 million, but we're working with our partners at GSEP, the Greater Chicagoland Economic Partnership, and World Business Chicago to quantify that exact number, but it is significant. Next slide, please. How does that rank versus prior years? So this is kind of COVID, pre-COVID versus coming out of COVID, and there you see the numbers. The numbers are up for 2022. Business is back in Choose DuPage, and activity is picking up for DuPage County as measured by the number of projects that we were involved in this year. Next slide, please. Some of those highlights include Ace Hardware taking over the space in McDonald's. Now you might say, wait a minute, how does that meet one of your criteria? They are investing $50 million in that space to bring it up to the standards for Ace Hardware. So that is one corporation replacing another corporation, but they are rejuvenating and reimagining and reinventing that space. These other 2 deals were deals that Choose DuPage was involved in. Gerbruder Weiss, forgive my pronunciation, they relocated their corporate headquarters to Wooddale. And then ML Realty Partners, longtime partner with Choose DuPage, is developing warehouse, industrial, and office space along Bussey Road. Those are just some highlights. There's many, many more than those. Many of them on our website if you want to see more individual information. Next slide, please. So my job as the leader at Choose DuPage, we got to make sure the staff is doing their job. How are we helping these? So we have a staff scorecard that includes local business outreach and tracking, responding to RFIs, requests for information. That is typically the way that deals work in Choose DuPage, in our world and in DuPage County. A site selector or a broker will issue an RFI. We respond to the RFI by identifying real estate resources and other tools for attraction and retention. And then of course, we hit them with our business attraction and marketing campaign. Next slide, please. In 2022, we attended over 100 meetings. Next slide, please. And we responded to more than 175. We fulfilled more than 175 RFIs or requests for information for those projects. Next slide, please. The county is undergoing a strategic plan. Choose DuPage thought it was appropriate for us to do a strategic plan at the same time. We did our first one in 2021. It is located on our website if you want to see the items that we were focused on. But now we're updating our strategic plan as we come out of COVID to identify new ways and new focus areas for economic development activity throughout DuPage County. Next slide, please. This is our strategic plan initiatives that we are working with our board of directors, our stakeholders, and the business community. So this is not exclusively Choose DuPage staff doing a strategic plan. This is the engagement of the entire business community. I would like to draw your attention to a couple of items on here that we're focused on kind of at a hyper level right now. The facilitate completion of Western access to O'Hare, Illinois 390 and Illinois 490. We just completed this component of our strategic plan, and I think it's safe to say at this point that Choose DuPage is largely morphing into an economic redevelopment organization. We don't have a lot of greenfield space available in DuPage County. With the completion or near completion of the West Chicago Business Park, formerly known as the DuPage Technology Park, in a nutshell, we're running out of land for raw development. So we're now looking at catalytic opportunities to trigger redevelopment. And 390, former Elgin O'Hare corridor, is a prime example of once that infrastructure is complete, once Western access to O'Hare is in place, the economic opportunities that is going to present for Itasca and Roselle and Hanover Park and the communities that line, and even the airport area communities, Bensonville and Addison, from a redevelopment perspective is really critical. So we are working on updating things like the economic impact reports associated with the completion of Western access, making sure that we make the communities aware of comprehensive zoning, the changes that are happening from a zoning perspective. It should come as no surprise to all of you that there are two markets right now that are very, very hot in DuPage County, and there is one market that is very, very cold in DuPage County. The hot markets are transportation, distribution, and logistics. Fancy way of saying warehousing, Amazon, and the like from a distribution perspective. The other is multifamily residential. We're seeing more and more developers coming to Choose DuPage with the live, work, play model. That oftentimes flies in the face of local zoning standards because an area may not be zoned appropriately. So we need to work with mayors. I was at DuPage Mayor's Managers last week, kind of driving home the importance of making sure that your speed to market from a zoning perspective and your flexibility from a zoning perspective recognizes the trends that are happening in the industrial and multifamily space right now. The area that is not hot right now in DuPage County is brick and mortar retail. And as we look at repurposing shopping malls and as we look at sports training facilities, the feasibility study that you all asked us to complete, they're going to play a very important role in our efforts from a strategic planning perspective. I'd also real quickly just like to draw your attention to point 5 and point 6, commercial collaboration. That's the Connect DuPage program. There's an event happening here at the county next week or the week after, Forgive Tuesday, where we're trying to elevate the role for women-owned and minority-owned businesses, how they can become state certified, and how they can learn how to do business with state agencies. And then regional economic cooperation. If you haven't been paying attention, that is the Greater Chicagoland Economic Partnership and the work that we're doing with our Collar County friends, as well as the city of Chicago, to drive a true regional economic focus for all of Northeastern Illinois. Next slide, please. So I touched on the highlights, but if you want to go to the next slide, please. Another one, Sustainable DuPage. Again, this was an initiative that the county board asked Choose DuPage to undertake regarding working with businesses on a toolkit, which we've created. It's on our website. We're promoting it to the business community on how they may work on things that they hadn't previously thought of, other than lighting and how to reduce natural gas consumption, but things to make businesses more environmentally friendly. That program is currently underway with several events planned and having already taken place. I should also mention, going back to Connect DuPage, by the way, we created a database for the women and minority-owned businesses on how they can do business with not only the government, but also with other businesses in DuPage County that have a corporate social responsibility stated goal. And we have over 100 businesses that have registered in our database already. Next slide, please. That is Connect DuPage. Next slide, please. One more. So we have created 65 reports, industry sector reports. I'll give an example on this in case you're wondering what that means. The hospitals come to us a lot, DuPage County hospitals in the healthcare system, and say, we want to increase our spend with women-owned and minority-owned businesses, but we don't know where those businesses are. So by generating reports within that industry sector, how can you buy sterile gloves? How can you buy bed sheets from DuPage County businesses that are registered in here? Edward Elmhurst, for example, has already begun purchasing some of their supplies from a company called Medgyne that's located here in DuPage County. So it's a connectivity portal, if you will. Next slide, please. The supplier database, as I mentioned, 63 businesses. This is a little old. We had a recent push and we're now over 100 businesses registered in the supplier database. Next slide, please. Certification resources. This is a challenge. I won't lie to you guys. It's a big goal, but it's an aspirational goal. It's one thing to be a woman-owned business or a minority-owned business. It's another thing to be a state-certified women or minority-owned businesses, because that opens up opportunities that you would not otherwise have simply by being a woman or minority-owned business. So we are working with our board, who has generously volunteered their time, their talent, and their services to work with businesses to get them certified. If you know any women or minority-owned businesses within your districts who want to avail themselves of this service to become certified, it is 100% free. And the coaching and the counseling and the paperwork and everything else that needs to be done for it will be provided by Choose DuPage and our board members who have volunteered to complete those services for the business in question. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, we've hosted a bunch of events already for Connect DuPage, and we've hosted a bunch of events already for Sustainable DuPage. Visit our website for more information on those. Next slide, please. No conversation on economic development would be complete without discussion on the regional economic partnership known as GSEP. I mentioned earlier, we respond to RFIs. We typically get those RFIs from site selectors, brokers. Sometimes we get them from Intersect Illinois. Intersect Illinois, for those of you who don't know, is the Choose DuPage for the entire state of Illinois. Now we get them from the city of Chicago and World Business Chicago. And to date in 2022, we've already received 13 leads from World Business Chicago. I can promise you, this is where I get kind of excited and a little passionate. Last year, that never, ever, ever would have happened. Chicago would have said, we don't have the space. Thank you, Mrs. Rutledge, for inquiring. Good luck in your next attempt. Now they're sharing those leads with Choose DuPage, with Lake County, with Kane County, with Will County, and we're all working collectively to try to find a spot for that business. And it's led to 3 pro-Chicagoland decisions, 2 of which have happened here in DuPage County. One with I don't mind sharing this one, Lion Electric. For those of you who don't know, Lion Electric is an electric school bus manufacturer. They went down to Will County in Joliet, Illinois. The company that is physically building that plant, the engineering firm that is working with Lion Electric on where to put the machines and how to lay everything out, it's a company called Mercure Engineering. They were headquartered in Montreal, Canada, and they opened their first lower 48, how would you refer to that? Their first lower 48 offices in Downers Grove. And they've currently hired 13 engineers who are working exclusively on the Lion Electric project. They have massive expansion plans as they continue to grow their business. The other one isn't ready for public dissemination yet. As soon as it is, I'll be sure to share it because it's pretty cool. Next one, next slide, please. So we engage in a variety of activities, as you know, from Connect DuPage and the toolkit and industry sector reports. That is now on steroids through the use of GSEP and World Business Chicago, because they have data sources that we don't have available. They have information because of their bandwidth that we don't have available. So we're taking all of this stuff simply to the next level. Next slide, please. Marketing, I'm going to go through this quickly. It's a big part of what we do. We market the heck out of Choose DuPage. Next slide, please. And DuPage County with over 50 ad placements, social media posts, email campaigns, websites, web pages. We started a podcast. Get ready for that. Choose DuPage is doing a podcast. I might ask all of you to sit and be a guest at an upcoming Choose DuPage. We call it the DuPage Business Beat. We're super excited working with College of DuPage on our podcast. Next slide, please. And this is just some data on what the marketing is achieving with over 61,000 website visits. That's up from last year, 4 million digital ad impressions. So the message is getting out there, and over 7,400 email subscribers, which is an all-time high for Choose DuPage to have 7,500 people subscribing to the information that we put out there. My goal on this is to follow that of World Business Chicago. World Business Chicago, the Choose DuPage of Chicago, has more followers than Cranes. we need to change the narrative. And working through social media, our goal is to change that narrative. Next slide, please. I think that's it. 9 minutes, not bad.
That's pretty good.
Questions?
I have a question. What do you attribute to the jump in new businesses from pre-pandemic to now? Because 22 numbers are higher than 2019, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I think just businesses kind of coming out of hibernation and getting back to their normal business operations and their normal business plans. And
But this even beats pre-pandemic numbers.
it does, not by much, but it
Okay.
beats pre-pandemic numbers, yes.
That's exciting.
Yeah, we're excited about it. I was at DuPage Mayors and Managers Conference last week, and a mayor asked, okay, Greg, when are you going to extricate Choose DuPage from GSEP? And I said, what are you talking about? And they said, well, you know, there's going to be an exodus of businesses leaving the city now and coming to the burbs, and Choose DuPage respectfully disagrees. We believe very strongly that a strong Chicago is absolutely essential for a strong DuPage County, and we have to work regionally. If a business wants to leave Chicago and come to DuPage, of course, we're going to help them. That's our job. But just like with the pandemic, we thought, oh, there's going to be a lot of satellite offices that open in the collar counties now because nobody wants to get on a train and nobody wants to be in a crowded building or riding elevators. Just didn't happen. Just didn't happen. So we're excited about that.
Thank you. Remember you.
Thank you, Ma'am. So with regard to the women and minority owned certification, because of the event that's coming up on April 25, I really would like to reach out to some of the businesses in my district. We have a lot of mom and pop stores, and so I'm not sure if they're appropriate for the business event, or what kind of benefits would these mom and pop stores, for example, get if they were to get certification?
So that's a great question. There's really two paths for the Connect DuPage program. One is certification. So if the mom and pop store wants to sell to DuPage County, wants to sell to the tollway, and wants to help the purchasing agency meet their goals on that contract, that would be the path for them to go down. Chances are a mom and pop retail store is not going to be on that path. However, if that mom and pop store wants to sell to a hospital, wants to sell to a Molex, wants to sell to Calamos, wants to sell to a major employer within DuPage County, and that employer wants to increase their spend because they monitor their spend with women-owned businesses and minority-owned businesses, then by going to that event and simply learning how to register in our database, which we then provide to the major employers, could help their businesses grow.
Okay, and Member Galassi.
So thank you, Madam Chair. That was actually one of my questions. So just to understand exactly. So if it is a woman-owned business, it would help them potentially increase their business because the businesses that they would be serving would benefit if they had on record that they were partnering with a woman-owned business.
Correct.
Is that accurate?
Correct.
Okay.
We're finding even banks, Member Galassi, are telling businesses, what is your discretionary spend with women and minority-owned businesses, and you better increase it if you want to keep using our banking services.
Mm-hmm.
So businesses, whether they want to or not, are not being forced, are being very strongly encouraged by lending institutions to increase their spend with minority-owned business and women-owned businesses. So by getting in this database, again, when a Edward Hospital or an Elmhurst Hospital or a Molex calls and says, hey, Choose DuPage, I want to increase, can you help me find these people? We generate the report. Where it goes from there is between the businesses.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. And then two other quick questions. What is the timing of the completion of the Western Access, Elgin? Do you know?
If I was at the tollway, it'd be done by now.
Oh.
I'm joking. 2025 is what the stated goal is for that. But the people mover system and everything else that goes along with it is absolutely critical to that project.
Okay.
2025.
And then do you have any timing updates on the feasibility studies that we've talked about?
We're meeting with senior staff to get a little more direction on who, what, where, when, and why. And I believe that meeting is next Monday. Next Monday. And then I hope to get rolling on it and certainly be back in front of this committee within 3 months after that to at least give you an update.
Great. Thank you. Great presentation.
Member Desart.
I do know a couple of fledgling female-owned businesses in my district. So how do they How do they go about getting certified? Do they just go on the Choose DuPage website? There's a link
And
to,
yes,
I know they
just
will
have
be-
them call me.
just call you.
Just
Okay,
give them my
great.
cell phone number because we're,
I love
we
that.
have enough bandwidth where we can give everybody the one-on-one. I have a staff person who's running this program and she's
That's
Rita
fantastic
Hockey.
service.
who-
Thank you, Greg.
Rita used to run the Small Business Development Center for the College of DuPage.
You really want me to give out? the-
Please do.
your cell
Please do.
number?
Please do. Please
All
do.
right, thank you.
Happy to do it.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Greg.
you.
We appreciate it. And now we're going to, as you all remember from last month, we asked for the best and final for specific bids from follow-up for the presentation that Beth Marquetti did with DCBB. So she is back for the discussion and to her proposals for funding for upcoming events.
Wonderful.
Take it away.
Thank you, everyone. Beth Marquetti, DuPage CBB. Delighted to be here. We're going to fly through. Everyone knows we started a sports commission in 2019. Here's a few of the sports. Keep going, please. Keep sliding away. Lots of really great things that we've been doing from the sports side. Remember that we are responsible for filling hotel rooms, and that's the ultimate goal of this, right? So bringing sports in, particularly during COVID, was vitally important. I'm going to show really quickly part of our video. I'm not going to go through it all due to the essence of time, but thank you for that. Katie Ledecky was there, but we're going to keep going along here because we want to make sure we have time to go through the ask here. So I would love to tell you that these are vetted out by our organization. These are solid pieces of business that we're asking for ARPA money from the county. So just so you know, the state is already supporting the CVB. There are no other grants available, and I cannot get answers for 2024 fiscal year, which starts July 1st, which is why I'm coming here and asking for some support with these tournaments. First is the TNBA Annual Championship Equity and Bowling Conference and Tournament. Thank you to Member Childress for attending our site visit last week. We're competing against St. Petersburg, Dallas, Texas, Denver, Colorado, Reno, etc. $75,000 is the bid fee for this. We will be sending it to your contract, but we're only asking for 2024. They are very interested in coming in for 2028. So this presentation varies slightly from last month because we've got clarification from finance that we want to make sure that we're only asking through the end of 2025. So thank you to Chair LaPlante and Jeff over there and all of the finance folks for helping us. So that's the first ask. This is a really important piece of business because this organization is people of color. It is a great tournament for us with thousands of hotel rooms. Next slide, please. Next is bowling again, US Junior Gold. So we continue, the last time we've had this was in 2015. We had 10,000 hotel rooms, 30,000 attendees. We're competing against Reno. They do want us to couple this with the Women's Open again, but for right now, we're asking for $100,000. We will have to get more dollars, but we had 4 communities help us with this. And we also are hopefully able to, by the time 2025 rolls around, to get another private sector grant from the state of Illinois. So that's $100,000. Next slide, please. Why it's important, that tournament in particular is important. As you can see, there's 3,100 bowlers from 2015. And if you look at the left, they stayed on average 6 to 8 days. So thousands and thousands of hotel rooms, millions of dollars of economic economic impact. And we need multiple bowling centers for this. They all end up bowling at Addison Stardust Bowl by the end of the tournament. Next slide, please. Next is venue rental fees for Stardust. The precedent has been set. We only have 2 major facilities in DuPage County. One is the FMC Natatorium. The second is Stardust Bowl at Addison. 84 lanes. It's the only one in the country that has all those lanes under one roof. Most of the rights holders that we talk to only want to pay about $4 a lineage fee. Stardust needs to be in business and they need about $6. So this ask is to help them with some of those lineage fees for venue rental. So again, that ask is for $150,000. It's the same amount that we graciously the county approved for the FMC Natatorium. So this is similar to what we would need for them. Next slide, please. Keep going. We've been able to get bowling on the national map for DuPage County, which is really exciting. I think this is the last ask. This is the 2024 water polo. This is very interesting. It came a couple months ago, but this is an Olympic development program. They need multiple pools for this. So this would be to be able to rent such as 2 Hinsdale pools and probably another pool in DuPage County so that we can bring 60 teams rather than 48. Next slide, please. Oh, one more, esports, sorry about that. This ask is to expand the bandwidth. We have e-gaming and Frosty Faustines every year. This ask would be to help with our bandwidth and the internet and the number of people that are on internet while they're e-gaming. We are at risk of losing this. It is growing and growing and growing from a sports perspective, and we're at risk of losing it to a convention center, either Rosemont or Tinley Park or one of the other ones, Schaumburg. So what we've been able to work with them is to get multiple hotels, and we need the transportation and the bandwidth for this. So this is a really great, I think it was about 7,000 hotel rooms last year in the Lombard, Oak Brook, Over Terrace area. Next slide. Our total ask is $425,000. It is lower, like I said, again, from last month because we're going to make sure that we abide by those ARPA guidelines. So let me try to address some possible questions. Again, all these sports are vetted professionally from our organization. Just like Greg, we don't count anything a lead. The state of Illinois requires a minimum for us to count a lead. All of these collectively together are over 70,000 hotel rooms, which we desperately need for recovery for our properties. We are still down about 9% collectively in DuPage County. In speaking to Lynn, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on Lynn's last name. From Choose Chicago, they are down 20% still. I was like, too many Lynn's here. I started to say La Plan, I'm like, no, that's not right. Jimmy Mundo and I were talking yesterday from Choose Chicago. They're still down 20% in meetings and conventions. So to help this with group business would be a really big coup for DuPage County. We also are helping with the Master Business Grant. Thank you to Choose DuPage. We've been running grant informational sessions so that our hotels, our arts facilities, and our restaurants are able to take advantage of those B2B grants that are out there. The deadline for that is May 10th. So we're really working hard to try to restore the really great economic health for DuPage County. And this would be one of the things that we can do to help. The municipalities already are participating in a grant program. So that's why we're coming to the county, and the municipalities are saying, please help, because they're already funding the CVB with match dollars from our state grant, and they're also helping with additional grants. Stardust Bowl Women's Open was funded by 4 communities. So this would be really helpful to us to help get that across the finish line and go to contract with these folks. I don't feel like there's any risk in these asks because they're by 2025. And they go to contract with 3 different organizations, the CVB, or the Sports Commission, the hotels, and then they go to contract with the venues. So I feel very comfortable that these are for sure things if we can get it across the finish line and go to contract with them. So that is my ask today from ARPA money. Thank you very much. I'm happy to entertain any questions. And I do want to thank all the members that have come seen our venues, because it is very important that we're bringing in those international and domestic travelers to DuPage County.
Thank you so much, Beth. So I just want to make sure that everyone on the committee is clear that the water polo is new since the March presentation, and so is the ask for the Stardust Bowl. Is that correct? So those are the two new ones since our presentation last month. So
Sorry, can I?
of course, go right ahead.
Is the Stardust Bowl when you're mentioning the 150?
Correct.
Okay.
For the facility. So I have a question about that. So are you asking us to write a check to Stardust and give it to Stardust then?
That would be absolutely fine.
Okay.
That would be similar to what we've been able to do for the natatorium from the county's perspective.
Okay.
It helps with them with venue rental so that they can offer a more competitive rate. When people come to Chicago, it's more expensive. Let's face it, we're a bigger metropolitan area, but we do see 12% to 18% lift, meaning that more registrations, more people can get to O'Hare because of direct flights. So they want to be here. It just costs more money for the rights holders.
So then that would make it really that DCBB is asking for 275,000. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I'm trying to make things as like succinct
Easy.
and clear as possible for everyone here so we can all know exactly how we're going to vote. Jeff, may I ask you, is that something that's possible for us to give the money directly to Stardust. Bowl?
Yes, in coordination with Beth, we just want to make sure that Stardust would complete their obligation. I'm sure there would be some kind of forms to fill out.
Reporting like we do.
Reporting,
Yeah.
our goal is always to make it as simple as possible, but still follow a procedure, and the check would be cut there as I envision it.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Jeff. Thank you. Yes, Member Glassy.
So the bid fees, I'm assuming, would only get paid out if we win the project.
Correct.
What about that 150 grand? Would that also only get paid out if those projects are won, or how does that?
I would actually ask for the same kind of consideration that we're doing for the FMC natatorium. He really does. Jim Saffold, who's been here before, is looking for any help. He has tournaments every single weekend, and that would help him because lineage fee more affordable. I'm going to work with him very closely that it would be for big tournaments that would be used for throughout 2025. So yes.
Is there just, I guess my only concern is there any way to audit like how exactly he's using those funds?
Yes, just like we're doing for FMC natatorium. So every time there's a tournament, we would do an economic impact report. I actually have one for synchronized swimming, artistic swimming now. So again, that would only be used if we're involved in helping with that.
Okay. Member Childress.
Based on the dollars, and I just saw the 425, what's the amount of money we stand to reap from that? When you break down restaurants, hotels.
The economic
all the
impact,
other things, what does that look like?
For we've done a study on that. So usually for every dollar spent, we reap about $9 in ROI. And that's pretty much standard. We also in DuPage County offset about $1,400 in taxes. So if it wasn't for tourism and visitors here, every household would pay an additional $1,400 in taxes of their obligation. I'm able to, once the event is here, to do a room pickup. And I can tell you what the room revenue is. And then we are very professional in terms of belonging, just like Greg does, to hit to the regional efforts. We actually belong to a national efforts, and we have reporting that we can show food and beverage, transportation, motor fuel tax, all the other different line items that we can show for an economic impact.
Okay, and I guess finally, because I'm a big fan, as you know, the fact remains that most of these dollars that you're talking about is spent from people outside of DuPage, bringing that money into DuPage,
That's what we
as
love.
opposed to hitting the residents with these taxes.
That's the tourism. Yep,
Yeah.
that's the tourism piece.
Our obligation mission is 50 miles out or further. So with those are, and I even try to go out of state. And that one map that showed the junior gold, we had most of the entire state, Puerto Rico, and I think even I think there was another foreign country that was there as well. So it's all vetted, and we really like bringing in what we call new business. So.
And I found the bowlers pretty delightful. I actually got one of their cards, so I plan to call them and just thank them for coming out.
That's 3,000 hotel rooms per tournament. So if we have them in 2024 and 2028, and the timing, their hotels find certain pieces of business more desirable. So if it's July, they don't really need the business, but if it's at different times of the year, I'm not saying they don't need the business, they're pretty full, but they really need it, obviously January, February, March, or in October, November, December. So
I hope they were receptive to our welcoming, so.
thank you for being there. They loved having you, and I got to meet with them the next morning as well. So they're the only, I think we've been able to chip down the other competitors, and they really like Orlando. So Orlando, DuPage, but I'll tell you, we rolled out the red carpet for them.
DeSantis will screw it up, but that's okay.
Yes,
The quick
Member
question,
Rutledge.
totally a side note here, but I'm curious of, if you were licking your chops with the Democratic convention next year, how are you going to be?
You know what?
drawing those people to the-
I would love that
Another day,
conversation, but
okay,
another
okay.
day, I'm sorry, we're
I'll
gonna
talk
have
to you
to.
offline.
Yeah, that's great,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, Member Krajewski.
Yeah, two things real quick. Jeff, just for this, the bowling, just simple like the natatorium, if, just to give him the backstop to let him know that if he gets $6 normally a lane and he has to compete for 3.5 or 4 at the end of the event, just like the natatorium, however many lanes he has, the extra $2 or $2.50, at least he knows if he can go bid at $3.50 a lane or, $2 a lane, whatever, Jeff just can write a check similar to natatorium. So it should be pretty easy, just as long as he knows there's 150, he's got that backstop as soon as the event's over, or you can go compete and know you can offer 350 or 4 to bring them there. I think Beth will get the economic impact study from this last weekend's event in auditorium that eventually will come to the board, and probably had some other ones, but I'm sure it's going to be big. I think, from board standpoint, we should just be allocating a lot more money to events in DuPage County that, whether it's Stardust, Auditorium, Business Bureau, Naperville, Itasca, or Roar's got their own, just wants to come before your committee and say, we got this event that could bring 4,000 rooms, or we got this event to allow that. So put a big pot under your guys' control, whether Beth can come or the bowling alley could come, or an auditorium, and ask for the money and go through kind of the guidelines that you guys put in place. The other issue with the auditorium, I know that we have no hotel tax. Every municipality does. We don't have home rule. A lot of municipalities have a food and beverage tax on top of, and extra home rule sales tax on top of. So they're the biggest benefactors. So I know the auditorium, first call I made was to the mayor and said, you're the biggest one that's going to be impacted by the hotels in your right next door and the restaurant. So you really need to come to the table too. And Westmont came forward and put up 50,000. I was Mayor Beechster, the same thing at intergovernmental last year. He said every restaurant was full in Addison for 3 weeks. So, I think some of the municipalities should also come forward because they got the same ARPA money we do.
Right.
And they actually have a hotel tax that we don't have, but they have extra sales tax and food and beverage that, put a program together that, apart from what Beth's asking for organizations or municipalities like the Naperville to come forward, but also they have to throw in some money too, and they can attract. But I would only do it for big, large events, like 1,000 hotel rooms. Everybody's doing their job, the salespeople at the hotels, the business bureau, the municipality's trying to get a 200 here, 100 there. If you have the opportunity, like this big bowling one, or the last weekend swim one, that can bring a lot of hotel room nights and things, then, we could try to help incentivize. But my suggestion would look at a future big pot under you guys' control, and then let organizations know that they have that ability.
Yeah, I love that idea. I think that's terrific. Thank you very much, Member Krajewski. Yeah. Member Desart.
So Jeff, I'm trying to understand if we paid the bid fee for the 75,000 bid fee for the first bowling event and then the 100,000 bid fee for the second bowling event, we wouldn't send Stardust $150,000 until those bids were approved for DuPage County, right?
Oh, absolutely. They have to go through the whole process.
The whole bid process. Okay, because it sounded like we were just going to send Stardust
No, I don't think,
150,000.
no, that was.
Okay, great.
No, I mean, because.
Thank you for the
obviously,
clarification.
No one was there. Why would we send it, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
I've moved up.
yes, you
To
have.
the big people table.
Welcome.
Quick question. I agree with Brian on this. I
Yeah.
think there's a really big opportunity here. Naperville has a marathon that they do. There's a half marathon, a full marathon. We have so many festivals between Rib Fest, Pride Fest. Hispanic Fest. I mean, there is like a really wonderful opportunity to be able to get people into the DuPage area and be able to fill up the rooms and, you know, go to the restaurants and so on and so forth. So I think this is a great start. I just think that it needs to be spread out a little bit wider so that we do get more organizations that come in and say, hey, we're thinking, we do this already, and we would like to talk to you about how do we make this work a little bit better, right? Because every festival, every event, there's always tweaks here and tweaks there every single year.
Always, yeah.
And, you know, one year might not be good, but the next year, let's do this and maybe that, and then it brings more and more people, and the more people you bring to expose to DuPage County, the more they're gonna come back. So the one question I had was this, it's about a $425,000 budget item
Possibly,
altogether,
yeah, maybe
potentially.
minus 150.
So how much money is in the ARPA fund to spend on this? And then did we budget already 425 or more, expecting that this would be available?
This sounds like a Jeff question.
We currently
Start
have
with how much is left.
unallocated
much
$11
is
million.
left?
$11 million, so there's plenty of money here. Second part of your question was?
Did we budget
This is
for
a
the
new ask,
425?
Yeah,
you know,
this
like-
is a new ask.
It's a new ask.
Yeah.
Okay,
We
so we
did not.
didn't budget
Yeah,
for
it's
it.
a new ask, and what we do then is we do a budget transfer, if you will, within the ARPA fund and get that amount budgeted.
So if, and again, follow up, and I apologize. So if we do this, do we just budget for more, or do we start a program that allows us to have money in the budget, but the program would expand to more than just what we're piecemealing here? I don't know.
We have to be mindful that when we talk about ARPA dollars, they all must be expended by 2024, 2026. So this is short-term dollars.
The other option.
Wait, I'm hearing 26 and 24.
Yeah,
just to be clear,
Be
you know,
allocated by
located-
2024 and spent by 2026.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Anything that's not committed and under contract, we run those risks. So we want to be conservative, you know. I know I'm talking because I don't want to leave any money on the table. So if, for example, we were to set money aside for an event in 2025 and then it didn't happen, we would lose that money. So we can't allocate in 2025. So the way I understand, you know, Beth's program is it's, you know, everything is we're gonna know by the end of 2024 what's gonna go.
Yeah,
You know,
we're not
and
gonna
then-
lose it because if we don't get the event, we don't give
So
them
we
that
haven't
money.
expended the.
One other point that I wanted to make too, while you asked about the budget, sorry to bring this up, but we have unexpected dollars that were allocated for the hotel assistance program of about $716,000. $716,000 is unexpended for the hotel assistance program. So that's an option too for funding.
And that was because of the guidelines for ARPA, if they changed ownership groups during the COVID period, they weren't eligible. So there was leftover dollars.
So some of this had to be tweaked from March because to make sure to meet the ARPA guidelines, and then to Mary Catherine's point, to make sure that this is something that has a high probability of success. So we're not, anything that we put out there, it would go back to the government, to the federal government if we don't spend it. We don't want to lose those ARPA funds. Member Krajewski.
Is the 11 million unallocated? Does that include our 10 million revenue replacement? Just get rid of that 10 million and we can do anything we want with it.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but we still have money.
We keep
that's
talking
gotta
about
be spent.
24 and 25, it's gonna run out. Just take the 10 million, use it for revenue replacement, and then we don't have to discuss this any further. I don't know how many times we talked about, it's like members A, talking about the $0 and $50 if we're on our agendas. I mean, take the 10 million, just use it for revenue replacement, and then we don't have to worry about it. It doesn't make any sense.
Revenue replacement to the general fund?
Revenue replace, because the 10 million, we haven't taken the 10 million that you said, unallocated 11 includes 10 million, right?
Okay, so you know what I'd like to do? I appreciate these questions, Brian. You're raising some really good ones. And just in the interest of time that we've got another 7 minutes till our next meeting is going, We can talk about that with finance perhaps later?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I think that's a great idea. But thank you for bringing up these ideas, Brian. Yes, member you.
I just wanted to know, are we planning on making, or do you need us to make a motion in order to take a
What we
vote on
need
this?
is-
or
is
not
just-
yet?
We're asking for a show of
Consensus of the
consensus.
committee.
Yes. So everyone understands how this works. We're going to ask, do you like these ideas? Do you like the budget? And if so, then we have a consensus. It moves on. We've come up with a resolution that we're going to bring back next month, a full resolution to economic development. Then we vote on it here. If it passes, it goes to finance. If it passes, it goes to county board. And that would all happen in May. So today, so now that we have all of this information, I'm looking for consensus. Is there support for these events and for these amounts? A show of hands, please, for everyone on the committee. Okay, and myself. So that looks like we have the consensus. Okay, so we're going to then sit down and work out a very detailed resolution with finance, with Beth and ZCVB. And we are going to make sure to have every little I dotted, T crossed, so that when we come back with that resolution next month, it's ready to be voted on. Does that sound great with everyone? Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Okay. Yes, member to start.
So you're, just to clarify that 11 million, there's only $1 million left in ARPA funding. That other 10 million is the money we took out.
So you know what, member to start, that's something for finance later, so I'm going to move
Okay,
that
so
on.
my second question is the $716,000 that wasn't allocated in the hotel grants. Could your 425,000 come out of that 716,000?
Well,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
meaning that just went back, so we still have that.
Right, so
Yeah.
come out of
She
that.
can do it
that-
tomorrow, because
Yeah, I
it's
mean, it's
there.
all there.
You still need
Yeah.
an agreement.
It's a new
Yeah, so Brant, that's like
And then
basically null
reallocate.
and void. Thanks,
Yeah.
Jeff. That has all gone back to the pot. We covered that last month. So that money is no longer under this umbrella any longer. But it's still accessible, of course, for other projects. So it's not like we can go back to that $718,000 and draw from it. Has that one made that
Yeah,
really
so
clear?
the
We've gone
tourism
over that
funds
a
left
million
over from that hotel grant.
That is it's no such thing as leftover. It
not
comes back to
leftover.
the county.
All right.
Correct. Absolutely not leftover. Okay, so the committee shows that we're going to go ahead. That's wonderful. Do we have any old business that anyone would like to discuss? Any new business? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned with a show of hands. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, wonderful. See you all next month. Thank you.